at some point we are going to have to do a whole show about how good this show sounds.
Everyone, welcome to Downballot. We do the show live every Friday at 7:30 p.m. right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. If you're listening on the pod, go on over there and follow the channel. And maybe find some other channels you like here too, but mostly follow my channel. You can support this project at eplex.store. We have some snazzy new local love stickers that just arrived today that you can pick up. And there's ways to join via membership like Patreon there, plus a bunch of other swag. And, kind of keep an eye on my Twitter because every once in a while I do pop some promo codes on Twitter. Anyway, I'm Producer Dave, and you can find me on Grindr.
Greetings, Producer Dave. This is the Councilman. You can find me, as always, at THE_Councilman on Twitter, if Twitter is still there. Thank you, Elon. Looking forward to the Elon Zuck celebrity death match, and lurking in your backyard, about to eminent domain that 6 inches of space I need for my succulent garden.
Oh man, good fences make good neighbors, but fences oftentimes do lead to property line disputes.
This is very true. Sort of like rock gardens, I found. Interestingly enough.
Oh, man. Maybe I can have a rock garden. I should have a rock garden. You don't really have to take care of it. You just put rocks in a place.
I suppose. I mean, I guess you need a place to put the rocks first. You know, if you have a yard, maybe. I don't know. But you could put them in the hallway, I suppose, but the roommates might not be all excited about that when they're like walking to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you know, barefoot. And they're like, what are these rocks doing here? Who put these rocks here?
Let's put a rock garden right in the middle of the new studio when I build out my new studio so that you can't really walk across the thing.
No, you could do like Foley art, you know, like the sound effects, like crunch, crunch, crunch.
All right. Anyway, what do we have for leading off this week?
Well, last week, as we pointed out, Robert Kennedy Jr. Came to town and brought his presidential motorcade, as it were, or his presidential campaign, cavalcade with him. This week, even bigger news. Of course, the big guy was here. We'll leave that to itself. Not the big T, but the president of the United States, actually, who was here. But good old Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida decided to do a stopover in California and San Francisco. And while he was here, he thought he would get in a couple digs at our little woke, city to the north and make some points with a conservative elite. So he made a little video and he put it out, and local ABC News is going to tell us all about it.
New at 11, Florida Governor and Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis was also in San Francisco. He visited yesterday and put out a new campaign video today, seemingly on a city sidewalk.
You look around, the city is not vibrant anymore. It's really collapsed because of leftist policies. And these policies have caused people to flee this area. They don't prosecute criminals like they do in most parts of the country.
DeSantis went on to mention things he says he saw during his visit, from open-air drug use to boarded-up businesses. Our ABC 7 News insider, Phil Matier, says San Francisco could be at the forefront of national political debate going forward.
It's no secret Governor Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis have had an ongoing feud. Governor Newsom goes down to Florida, cuts television ads there, criticizing that state, and now Governor DeSantis has decided to stop by Gavin Newsom's hometown and send him a postcard with his own critique of San Francisco, once again putting us in the spotlight for possibly the presidential election.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure he wasn't like green screened onto a video of a street corner. I don't know for sure, because like green screen technology is pretty fucking good, so who knows like where he recorded that, but
who knows if it's even Ron DeSantis, to be honest with you. It could be a deep fake. But
fake deep.
I'm actually surprised he didn't mention the poop. We cover it quite a bit here. There's definitely plenty of research and coverage and studies of the poop, and he just failed to mention the poop. I think that was a real missed opportunity on his part. Anytime you can talk about the poop in leftist San Francisco to your, again, right-wing elite, or your southern not quite swing states, swinging the other way, in fact, it's a missed opportunity. But all in all, it's what you'd expect. He also popped into Sacramento itself physically for a fundraiser with some bigwig developer of some sort. And Gavin Newsom shot back. But also shooting back was, as you'd expect, Mayor London Breed from San Francisco, who never takes any kind of slight against her city lightly, especially when it comes to poop. But even in this case, she's willing to stand up for San Francisco.
She's like the older brother that bullies and doesn't want anybody else bullying their little brother, basically. So she's like, the only person who can call this place a shithole is me. Right. Totally. It was my choice. It's my call. My town. Anyway, so she responds to Governor DeSantis's characterization of San Francisco as falling apart because of woke leftist policies.
Yeah, let's talk about a street corner in the Tenderloin, Geary and Hyde. That is where we see that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis recently filmed a campaign ad in what he called the once great city of San Francisco. And the ad, he says he saw people defecating in the street.
He did talk about that.
There you go.
To all, in his words, leftist policies. Let's see a bit of the ad, and then we'll come back, Mayor, and ask for your reaction to it.
I've seen so much riffraff just running around, and it just shows you these policies matter. Leadership matters. They are doing it wrong here. No wonder why we've had so many people move from San Francisco to Florida over the last few years. We got to stop.
Mayor Breed, how do you respond to that ad?
Well, he's using the oldest playbook in politics to get attention, talking bad about what's wrong and not necessarily talking about solutions to fix it. In fact, Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been actively engaged in working with us in the federal government to help deal with these challenges. President Joe Biden was just here in San Francisco yesterday talking about climate change and artificial intelligence. And so they're talking about solutions and how we move our country forward. But unfortunately, in politics, the old playbook of focusing on the negative and targeting places like San Francisco have been, unfortunately, the norm. So we need to turn that around.
Is what he's saying untrue, though?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know what his experience was. You know, people are taking what they're seeing in videos and seeing in terms of a snapshot and elevating them. But the people who actually live in the Tenderloin, have businesses in the Tenderloin,
the people who step on the poop,
those are the people we should actually be listening to. We are doing everything we can to make investments in treatment and programs and services. But ultimately, I think the work that we're doing around the arrest and collaborating with the state and the federal government are having an impact on helping us get to a better place. It's going to take us some time. This problem was not created overnight. And my hope is that more politicians will spend less time on criticizing and more time on working together with us to provide solutions.
I do like that that he used the term riffraff.
Yes, that's very fancy. You don't hear that too often these days. So
what? And the other thing I was wondering from the first video is, like, you could go to any city in the country and find a few boarded up businesses. It's just that somebody moved out. I mean, yeah. And maybe nobody's picked up the place yet, or maybe it's being boarded up because it's being renovated on the inside. There's all kinds of reasons. I mean, there were businesses boarded up on Campbell Avenue, and that was there's no poop on Campbell Avenue.
Are you sure? I mean, maybe like tiny little piece of, like, I don't know, kangaroo rat poop or something.
Yeah, maybe some rat poop around the 5-star restaurants.
Right, or maybe in the kitchen. But no, for sure. The San Jose has plenty of vacancies downtown, which I forget if we're going to cover later in the show, but there was some news about that this week as well. Yeah, he's playing on a familiar narrative. I did miss the whole defecation line, so he did reference the poop. I like how Mayor Breed, decided not to reference the poop necessarily, but it is a big factor. I think that's something when she talks about people's perception, right? There's a lot of things that can drive perception, but once you see human poop on the sidewalk, like, it changes your whole perception of a city. But then again, as we've talked about before, that's a city. If you don't see human poop on the sidewalk, I don't know if you can really say you're living in a city. You're more than likely living in a burg somewhere, or a burb. Or a town, cities or Los Gatos. Like,
a lot of cities have just made it really hard to poop if you're not also engaging in commerce at the same time, right? Like, if you could poop if you were going to one of the restaurants or one of the bars,
right? But oftentimes those same restaurants and bars will not allow someone to just walk in and poop, right, and use their pooper, despite the fact that it could mean, okay, they might be going outside and pooping in the front of their business, right, their artisanal cupcake shop. And the artisanal cupcake shop would be, behooved to let them in to use their restroom so that they can keep not just the front of their business establishment clean, but like just the neighborhood itself, right? Because this kind of perception spreads. I'm consistently on, calls or in conversations or in, just gatherings and casual conversations, hearing people talk about how they don't go downtown San Jose anymore because it's a freaking hellhole and it's going to shit, right? And it's not as though, like, you walk down there, it's not fucking Beirut, right? It's not some sort of war zone, right? Sorry, Beirut, and all the Lebanese people. But it's just not, right? It's not the fanciest downtown. There's some scuzziness to it, but it's not, it's not dangerous. It's not an unsafe place to be, right? And yet that's the perception. And it's primarily because of the poop, right? And the icky homeless people. So what is Mayor Ed 209 doing, and what is Mayor Breed trying to do, and what are other mayors trying to do? They're trying to combat blight. We're going to hear about that later. Combat blight, which basically means get the icky homeless people and the icky poop and all their icky possessions out of our sight, out of mind, so that we can go back to having commerce, right? Like you're talking about.
I don't really go to downtown San Jose that much, and one of the reasons is because of the things that you said that other people might think are good about it. It's too safe, too clean, too sanitary. There's like too much nice stuff, kind of. There's only a couple like dives really left, and like the dives and like the places where the punk rock bands play, or where you might catch a DJ playing for an empty dance floor because the bartender knows the DJ and they're like, sure, you can play here. Those are places are what make a city cool. And like, you know, artisan wine bars and shit are what makes a city whack.
And especially the artisan wine bars that close at what, like 9 or 10, right? God forbid, we have a city that shuts down at 2 a.m., right? Or even later. But that's just never been San Jose's thing. We tried. And maybe we'll get there one day once, maybe in another generation, who knows? But we keep praying for that, and I don't know if it's necessarily coming. Anyway, good on Ron DeSantis for, playing it up and trying to do what he can to make some hay in that race. I don't think he has any chance in California or anywhere else against the Big T. We shall see. Probably has a better chance than Robert Kennedy has against Joe Biden.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. I figure we should have we should also have a fake election between RFK Jr. and Ron DeSantis just to liven things up a little bit. Like a Model UN when you were maybe in high school or the university. We could do like that for a presidential election. Spend all the money, get some more money in some more consultants' hands, and just kind of do it for bragging rights.
For sure. Or we could just do a mock sort of debate. One of us could play Ron DeSantis. The media bunch could play Trump. It would be fantastic. But
actually, the media bunch would have to play Jordan Peterson as the moderator, because her Jordan Peterson impression is fabulous. Just on point.
I don't even want to do it. I mean, I would just end up doing Kermit the Frog. But hers is just ridiculously good, so I don't even want to try. But yeah, let's book that. Let's book that shit. That's going to be fabulous. Anyway, that's leading off for this week. So stay tuned for the next presidential candidate to touch down in the Bay Area. California is a little bit sooner in the process. We're in like that Super Tuesday range, but we're certainly not going to be a decider, I think, in the greater scheme of things. Certainly not in November, but perhaps in the Republican primary, we might have something to say. So
I think that California is a place where Ron DeSantis has a chance to make a slightly better showing, because a lot of the cities, there's more people live in the cities in California than live anywhere else, and I bet there's more people, more Republicans living in the cities than the whole rest of the state combined, and I think like city Republicans are going to be a little more inclined towards Ron DeSantis maybe than the Republicans up in like Shasta County or whatever, who are going to be like all in for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, he's known as sort of like Trump, not Trump light, but more like, acceptable Trump, or or Trump without the baggage of like feeling women's private parts, and all the other malfeasance, the big lie, and everything else. So basically, Trump without all that shit. We'll see. I think he'll do okay. I think he'll stick around long enough to make Trump sweat a little bit, but I mean, last time around, we were expecting the Big T to fall off and get taken down at any given moment. He just kept knocking those guys off, like 15 candidates or something like that. Just knocked them all off. Flies off a sugar cake.
I want Jeb to run again, just because his thing was Jeb !
I thought it was Jeb. Please clap.
Please clap. There were a lot of like during the Black Lives Matter stuff. There were a lot of memes of like Jeb like throwing the first Molotov and stuff. It was pretty funny.
Oh man!
Like there were like images of cop cars that were like turned over with like and Jeb had tagged his name on the cop car
with the exclamation point too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right, that's the tag. The full tag. Oh man, Jeb was here! Exclamation point. All right. Well, we'll stay tuned for that. And when Jeb makes an appearance in the Bay Area, we will certainly be there. We'll get an interview. We'll do all the things.
We'll definitely go. Exclamation point.
Yeah. I mean, if we'd known exactly where DeSantis was going to be, we would have been all over that shit. But he was stealthy. He got in there. What did they say? Geary and I forget, Geary and something else. Anyway,
he was in the heart of the TL,
in the tenderloin. Well, shall we see who's winning and who's losing? Because most people are losing.
It looks like our first story is BART police. It's not going to be anybody we're going to like. The BART police
they're
are
winning, I guess.
That's great. BART police, the transit system is in disarray, facing a major problem with funding, and the BART police are getting a little over $8.5 million. Not to like hire, they're just for recruiting, like basically for marketing for new recruits, essentially. So let's check out this. Let's check out how Fox 2 covers this. Probably not going to be great.
Might be LaMonica.
May soon see more police officers on BART trains. The transit agency's board held a budget vote today that aims to increase recruitment and retention on BART's police force. KTVU's Alice Wirtz has the story.
A unanimous approval by the board of directors gives BART Police an increase of $8.53 million, making the top salary range for new hires between $55 and $67 an hour. Thursday's board meeting in downtown Oakland, members unanimously approved an additional $8.5 million to fill empty positions and put more officers on trains.
Obviously, the benefits of recruitment and retention, as we've spoken about, an enhanced presence on our system, morale improvement, and obviously an improvement with filling vacancies can lead to savings in overtime where we're currently having to fill in for those missing spots.
Ultimately, it's an effort to get more passengers back on the trains. Interim Police Chief Kevin Franklin has served with BART for 27 years. He's been interim chief since February.
I believe BART is safe, but there is a perception out there that we have to acknowledge that there is crime on BART, and we're trying to work very hard right now to address that perception.
Crimes happen everywhere, though.
This extra budget will get more riders back on BART.
We track very carefully where
I'm going to go commit a crime tomorrow. I don't know which one.
And we do put
run
our
a stop sign
resources where they are needed.
It's all
jaywalking is no longer a crime, unfortunately.
And more safety for those riders on the transit line.
I think it does work well. The important part is having enough people out there to respond to the incidents that we're observing and to prevent more incidents from happening.
The BART Board of Directors unanimously approved an increase in budget for police officers, but will it be enough to get passengers to feel safe enough to get back on the trains?
Well, Breslin lives in the city. She's been riding BART since the 70s.
And I don't feel safe anymore.
Why?
Well, because there's homeless people on it and people get on that look kind of crazy. So
she says some lines on BART are worse than others.
The whole last BART car was all full of marijuana smoke.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, the shame train.
Sweet.
They can just do that.
Others, like Joe Ramirez, says it's important for riders to feel safe.
I think people definitely are. I know my mom, she refuses to take BART because she thinks, she's going to get robbed when she comes. And I know, my family feels the same way. They try to avoid it when possible.
This $8.5
They should go to the marijuana car.
Will help BART compete
totally
with 10
chill.
other public safety agencies around the Bay Area at a time when recruiting public safety and police officers is challenging. In Lafayette, Alice Wirtz, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
So of course they decided to talk to people at the fucking Lafayette BART station. He talked to people that get on at MacArthur or whatever, and those people are like, "What? No, it's fine." You talk to people at 24th and Mission, they're like, "Nah, I'm just taking this to work." What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What do you mean more police?
Right. Yeah, that's classic. But yeah, again, I love the person on the street view, especially the one woman who they asked, right? And what is the reason? What is the reason she feels unsafe now that she didn't, and she didn't feel that way, whatever, 40, 50 years ago when she first started riding BART and BART first opened? It's the homeless people. It's the first thing she said. The homeless people. And the people who look a little crazy. Shit, producer Dave, you and I look a little crazy on any given fucking Tuesday on BART, if we're having a bad day, if I haven't shaved or if I haven't showered and I'm just really pissed off, right, talking to myself a little bit, maybe really just digging into myself a little bit, I can look a little crazy on BART. So what the fuck, lady? Am I freaking you out?
Right, or if I've had a night, I was in Oakland or whatever with friends or whatever, and I've had a night and I slept on a friend's couch and didn't sleep too well and they were they had things to do. I kind of wanted to get out of their hair, so I skipped the shower in the morning and just got on the train and started heading home. Yeah, I'm one of those people that's scaring her now, but I'm just a fucking regular dude with a hangover and a podcast. I mean, no, don't be afraid, lady. I have a podcast like every other white guy.
If she knew you had the 11th best news podcast in California, I think she might think otherwise, or maybe have a different opinion of you. But
I'd give her a card. She'd be like, "Oh, you have a podcast. You're harmless. Actually, you're kind of whack."
She's like, there are 10 other news podcasts in California.
The councilman's talking about an email we got from somebody that was like, "Look, you have according to our thing, you're number 11 for news podcasts in California." And then I went to the website and I was like, "Oh, you want my money?" You could have flattered me a little bit better, right? You could have put, because like you could maybe make it so that everybody you send that email to, maybe they're all the number 4 one, right? Because they just give everybody a different link. Like the metrics, like when I clicked on it, the metrics, I'm like, this is made up. This is not the metrics for down ballot.
I mean, do you think they're sending that email to the California report? I don't know. Like, do you think Guy Maserati is getting that email? Or
they might have been number 1 on there. Who knows? Maybe they were number 10 and we can beat them out next time.
They're number 9. They're number 9. So we're coming up. But John something or other is the next guy up on the list, number 10. So we can crack the top 10 if we can knock him off. I couldn't find him on Twitter, so obviously he's not a very good podcaster. Anyone who's anyone is on Twitter. I mean, come on, let's go. Don't we know that?
He's got like a Facebook page that he like can't access because he forgot his password. He's getting more downloads than we are.
No, he absolutely has a Facebook network. Anyway, so speaking of more money for cops, I mean, in BART, they're just looking to pay the cops. In Oakland, they like to bribe the cops. So we're going to find out more about. I don't know how we missed this story originally, but there's a new court case developing around this.
I mean, who amongst us? Oh, wait a minute. No, I've never been a cop and taken a bribe. That's incorrect.
TVU crime reporter Henry Lee live tonight in the newsroom with the latest on this big development. Henry.
Yeah, Mike and Julie, this case was brought by Alameda County DA Pamela Price, who's promised to hold officers accountable. She called today a historic but sad moment. Veteran Oakland police officer Fong Tran will be going to trial on charges of bribery and perjury in connection with a botched murder case.
If you violate the law, even if you're a police officer, that you will be held accountable.
What about especially if you're a police officer?
Pamela Price, a progressive who's made charging police misconduct a top priority, was in court when Judge Clifford Blakely ruled there was enough evidence for Tran to stand trial.
I regret to inform the residents of Alameda County that this case involves a decade of lying and manipulation by an Oakland police officer.
Tran, a longtime homicide investigator, is accused of bribing Aisha Weber to identify 2 men as suspects in the 2011 shooting death of Charles Butler Jr. Weber later testified she didn't witness the killing and said Tran had paid her $5,000.
We want witnesses to be able to come forward truthful.
In Alameda County, cops bribe you.
Unafraid, and not because they are bribed or given false incentives.
The judge cited this 2013 KTVU story featuring Tran and the victim's terminally ill father pleading for tips. And just a week after that broadcast, Weber came forward saying she saw 2 men commit the crime. Prosecutors say Tran made it look as if Weber took the initiative, when in fact Tran had been paying her and had met her previously, according to the DA. Prosecuting the case against Tran are Zachary Linowitz, an ex-Contra Costa public defender, and Leah Abraham, a former San Francisco prosecutor under Chesa Boudin. Representing Tran is ex-prosecutor Andrew Gantz.
The witness who was allegedly bribed, her credibility will be the main issue for a jury to decide.
KTVU legal analyst Michael Cardoza says
her credibility kind of doesn't matter if maybe she deposited that $5,000 in her bank right around the time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it that wasn't normal for her to be depositing that kind of money. Like that wasn't a usual thing she was doing.
Again, we'll center on Weber's testimony.
It is a question. Did she lie then when she said, I know who committed these murders? Or is she lying now when she says, no, I got bribed?
Now, in a statement, the officer's attorney said in part there's a lack of merit to the charges, and that case, as it stands, is at an early stage where the standard of proof is relatively low. Live in the newsroom, Henry Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Henry, in regards to timeline, what are we thinking here that when this trial may possibly start?
Well, the officer will be back in court next month to make another arraignment. He's going to probably plead not guilty, and then from there, the judge will take a look at trial dates.
All right, Henry Lee, live tonight in the newsroom. Henry, thank you.
I'm imagining the DA said that this is like 10 years of malfeasance. So I'm guessing this one bribe isn't really the only thing that they have on this guy.
Yeah, more likely they've unraveled quite a bit. I mean, I don't know that you wouldn't go, you wouldn't have a really stout case if you're going to bring this, especially with the heat that's been on, DA Price, as we've covered on Downballot quite extensively. Just about anything she does has been under the microscope. So obviously a case against an officer is going to draw a lot of attention from your law and order crowd. And interesting that she's recruited former prosecutors from Chesa Boudin's office in SF to work her cases. So good on her. Good that some of them found a landing spot. But yeah, very interesting case, and more than likely, I mean, come on, like you said, I've never taken a bribe. I actually was curious. So you've never taken a bribe, or you've never been a police officer? Which one of the things is untrue, or are both of them untrue?
I'm just going to leave that one alone.
You could be 50% right half of the time.
So I thought this was going to be a case like where the cop was being bribed, not where the cop paid the witness. And it's not, by the way, it's not out of the ordinary for police departments to pay informants.
Sure.
But
100%.
that stuff's like all above board, and it's not like $5,000 to like say you saw this. The way it works is usually goes the other way. The informant will bring the police information and then be like, because a lot of times maybe police informants or, people who are around crime, oftentimes due to their socioeconomic status. And so they'll be like, can I get $50 walking around money? And the cop's like, how about 20?
Right.
Like I've seen The Wire. I know how this works.
Right. PI doesn't always stand for private investigator. It also stands for paid informant, right? Or police informant. So yeah. It's definitely a formal kind of a thing. This is obviously under the table, not above the board, and with intent too. But this is also something that, we hear about, we see movies, but we hear about, we hear tell about, but and we assume, I think, it's happening to some extent, right? Like anyone who's seen Training Day, right, or one of these movies, right, or you pick it. There's a bad cop movie out there somewhere. So we'll see in, I guess, a month or two when as it starts to unravel. But everyone's saying what you'd expect at this point, and the defense is doing what they were supposed to do, which is just draw attention to the fact that you might not be able to trust the star witness simply because they're the one that took the bribe in the first place, right? Like it's kind of like this woman must have poor eyesight because she's a prostitute, right? Like, well, no, that's not how it works.
The idea that like you're almost admitting, like there's a way in which if you were really dumb, you could admit that your client is guilty. Be like, well, why would you trust somebody who took a bribe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. They're obviously corrupt. They're obviously in it for their own purposes, right? But now they're testifying against a sworn officer of the law, and it's not. It's one of those things where it's like, why would you do that if it was not true, right? Why would you? Why would any victim like of sexual abuse or violence come forward, right, or rape? Why would you bring that on yourself? And anyone who tries to use that argument just has no idea, and never has been and never will be in a situation of being that vulnerable.
Yeah, because when you take a bribe from a cop, you're in a fucking bad spot. You're in a bad spot.
What are you going to do?
Call the cops?
Like they say, right?
You give the $5,000 to another cop to arrest the cop that bribed you with $5,000. Now you're guilty of bribery. Now everybody's bribing everybody.
Right. Dogs and cats living together.
Mass hysteria.
We've been doing a great job of following up, so we'll be doing some follow up on this story as it comes to fruition. I'm surprised we missed. Maybe this is the first we've heard of it in the news, but or it's first made the news, but I'm surprised we missed it sooner. Anyway, back over in San Francisco, producer Dave, the San Francisco fire chief is a little concerned because there's some things getting in the way of first responders, and it's not the barricades preventing Johns from hustling for sex in the mission. It's something completely different.
A new battle in San Francisco, driverless cars against the city's fire chief. A battle between high-tech progress and the growing concern that these self-driving vehicles delay emergency vehicles driven by first responders. Our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman, has the details.
1 week away from state regulators voting on whether to let autonomous cars expand their services in San Francisco, the city's fire chief told us she'd rather they hit the brakes.
I'm not anti-technology. What I am anti is getting in the way of public safety when we're trying to do our jobs. And that's what's been happening time and time again.
Chief Janine Nicholson says the driverless vehicles from companies like Waymo and Cruise are literally getting in her way.
Blocking emergency, medical, and fire.
Most recently on June 9th, when a Cruise vehicle stopped on its own near a shooting in the city's Mission District. But the fire department says they've logged nearly 40 incidents with robo-taxis since January 1st.
Because we've seen these vehicles run over our hoses and get them caught in their wheel wells. We've seen them stop in front of 2 different fire stations now, blocking our fire engines from getting out onto calls.
Waymo and Cruise say they continue to work on refining the vehicles and improving their safety records. And while we don't yet know their entire growth plans,
they've tested vehicles in San Francisco for years.
Tech watchers like Adam Kovakovich of the Chamber of Progress says he believes overall the driverless cars are likely to make things more safe for people, not less.
Yeah, there will probably be some incidents, far fewer incidents than there are human-driven accidents. But in general, my prediction is that several months from now, we'll look back on this and we'll say, why did we ever worry much about autonomous vehicles in San Francisco?
Chief Nicholson says she can wait.
I would say, please hit the pause button.
Scott Budman, NBC, Bay Area News.
Yo, you know what they need on the fire engines and shit? They need push bars. Fuck your self-driving car if it's in the way of like a fire engine. I'm serious. They should fucking install some shit on, and it's just like for other cars. Like you can get cars out of the, I mean, I know it's like unpredictable or whatever.
Sure.
And, you know, city streets are kind of narrow and you maybe likely to push that into somebody else's car and damage it. But if there's like a big fire,
if there's a threat to life and limb and people's property and all that, you know, absolutely. Like, you know, and I don't care if it's a self-driving car, and there's plenty of folks that like freaking, you know, double park, right? Amazon drivers and Uber drivers and Lyft drivers and just general population, right? Residents double park in front of their places all the time, right? Just, I'm just dropping something off, or I'm just popping inside for a minute, right? Or I'm just meeting somebody. And yeah, you're disrupting traffic and commerce, and someday you might disrupt some emergency situations. So be more conscious of yourself. Maybe self-driving cars are probably more conscious of their surroundings than humans are, right? So perhaps there's a way that we can set up some triggers so that first responders can get them out of the way without having to play bumper cars with them. But I agree with you. Why not? It's not.
Or what if? What if there was like some sort of agreement between these companies and the emergency services to where the emergency services could send a message to the car that says, get the fuck out of my way. And then the car just, it probably knows where the fucking emergency vehicle is because all the flashing lights, and it just gets the fuck out like you and I do, right? They should just be able to send a pull over message to these cars.
Some sort of override of some sort. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I've always thought that cops might have overrides on the traffic lights, but you know, they've had the technology. So, but maybe we can get something like that going on for our first responders. Because yeah, the last thing I would want is if, you know, someone in my family was, you know, on a life or death situation, and the only thing between first responders and my family member was a Waymo car.
And it was just sitting there. It's confused. Don't know what to do. Am I being pulled over? What's going on here?
Right. But, you know, if you're really upset and you really want to, you know, track down who's responsible, you can always get together with your neighbors and pay for some license plate readers to be installed around your neighborhoods. That way, you know, no one's ever getting away with crime in your hood. And that's what happened in Saratoga, apparently.
You can find these at every exit and entrance to the Saratoga Woods neighborhood. They're license plate reading cameras funded by neighbors.
Late 18, early 19, we were noticing an increase in crime within the Saratoga Woods community.
If it wasn't burglaries, it was vehicle thefts.
Coming out of the technology sector, many of us do, we started to investigate what are now known as these APLR license plate reader cameras.
Larry says dozens of his neighbors teamed up and paid several $100s to install and manage some of the first flock cameras in the city of Saratoga in 2020. They didn't need city permission because they were installed on private property. 2 years later, the city followed suit, installing 7 license plate readers as part of a pilot program. And now, neighborhoods all around the city are pitching in for their own flock cameras with the help of the city. The city of Saratoga says they just approved 6 districts or communities that want to pay for these license plate reading cameras. Here's a map of the proposed sites. The orange dots are the incoming cameras, a total of 26. All of them would be funded by residents through their property taxes, then managed by the city and the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office.
Since the beginning of the year 2023, we've had over 9 arrests from these flock cameras.
The Sheriff's Office says these cameras solely focus on license plates, and once the system detects a stolen car, the company notifies dispatch.
So it's just going to help with the investigative leads, and so far the success rate and how fast these deputies locate these stolen vehicles is pretty impressive. To get them off the street, and the biggest thing is to get these vehicles back to its rightful owner.
As for Larry, he says he's seen a decrease in crime in his neighborhood. He says they went from 12 vehicle burglaries in 2019 to just 2 in 2022, and says even neighbors concerned with privacy issues are now looking at the benefits.
There is a feature in the flock camera system that if people who live in the neighborhood don't want their license plate tagged, you can actually opt out.
In Saratoga.
Oh, I believe that.
NBC Bay Area News.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, sure.
Where's the QR code that I can scan to go opt out? Please show me, Larry.
Like, I don't believe that for a second that this company, because you notice they said there's a company, it's not being run by the city or by the county or whatever. So the company's like a middleman here. And I do not believe for a second that this company is not tracking everyone in that neighborhood and selling that information, to some advertiser or who knows. You opt out, get the fuck out of here. You can opt out with a certain kind of paint on your license plate, by the way. Certain kind of paint where the cops can still see your license plate, but the license plate reader can't see your license plate.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it is illegal to tamper with your California license plate.
It is not, from what I know, other than to put the new registration tags on. I believe that you're not allowed to tamper with the plates.
Yeah,
much like your front windows, you're not allowed to tint your driver's or passenger side front windows or the windshield for obvious reasons. But yes. It is getting a very slippery slope area. Amazed that in a town like Saratoga, not amazed that in a town like Saratoga something like this would happen. More that in a town like Saratoga or a city like Saratoga that's usually so hawkish about code and zoning and everything else. Like they literally have a zoning code that says you can't build anything more than like 2 stories in Saratoga, like anywhere. So the fact that they say, "Oh, it's fine, it's private property, go ahead." Install them, like the first wave. Now, I guess they're coming around and they realize, we need to actually regulate this, and get involved somehow. But they're getting involved in as much as they're facilitating it for more residents and more neighbors who want to, step up and have cameras watching their every move and watching everyone who comes into their little Tony neighborhood. To deal with crime that's, as we pointed out before, is not necessarily like spiking or on the rise or really out of the ordinary. It may have had a slight uptick during the pandemic for obvious reasons, but really is not a going concern. So again, not surprising that Saratogans would be the ones doing something like this, but really surprised that their city management didn't step in sooner, right?
So I'm wondering if any of the kinds of people who are maybe afraid of 5G are like, think that this stuff is like going to give them like bone marrow cancer or something. I'm wondering if there's one of them.
You would certainly expect to see them in public comment if this came before the planning commission, right, in Saratoga, or the city council for that matter. You would absolutely expect to hear them, and I think there's even a couple of them sitting on the city council, so you would certainly hear. there's some folks who would probably love to have the hat you're wearing right now, but maybe in an actual tinfoil format.
Available at our web shop, eplex.store. Use the code NOWSPACE, all caps, for 10% off anything in the store.
Boom. See, I'm good for lead-ins like that too.
It's called a sales conversion, everybody.
Sales conversions. Well, yeah, I mean, as the 11th best news podcast in California,
we should be selling more merch.
Yeah, we have a big audience out there. I mean, all 3 of our listeners are going to be buying some shit. So if you're listening, Michelle, David, I see you, we feel you, Nancy, I think, is the 3rd listener. Thank you all for downloading, and please keep doing it. You'd be much more better suited watching our Twitch broadcast so you can see our lovely faces and watch these clips live. But keep downloading, share with your friends, and join us live too. You can do both.
So we got one more story in Winners and Losers. This is about an Alaska Airlines flight that didn't go so well for basically probably everybody involved. Let's look.
Well, just for the one dude, actually.
Oh no. Let's see what's going on here.
More than 1,000 flights go in and out of SFO every day. Thursday night,
it was awful.
Awful is how Avery Lieberman would describe the landing as a passenger aboard an Alaska Airlines flight returning from LA. Lieberman said in their final descent,
all of a sudden, the most abrupt maneuver occurred in which the front of the airplane, the nose of the airplane, just went way up, and the jets went full force. At that very second that it started, the lights went out.
Lieberman says in all, it was about a minute, but felt like an eternity. Back in May, a couple of close calls when 2 airliners aborted landings at SFO after pilots spotted a Southwest Airlines jet taxiing across runways on which the other planes had been cleared to land. Concerns about close calls led the FAA to announce earlier this year it would invest $100 million in airport improvements, though not at SFO, to reduce the number of runway incursions.
It felt like a fighter pilot experience.
In Lieberman's case, he says the pilot simply said there was an issue with air traffic control and they needed to recircle or do what's called a go-around, like you see on this real-time track of the plane from FlightAware. The FAA tells us that these go-arounds are safe and routine procedure in which the pilots and the air traffic controllers are working together to make sure that an unsafe condition doesn't occur. Doug Rice is a retired airline pilot and looked at the public records for this particular Alaska Airlines flight.
The aircraft involved was higher than expected and a little bit faster. He got a little too close to a large aircraft that was in front of him. Too close was probably 3 to 3.5 miles away from an aircraft that was landing in front of them. And they might have needed 4 miles or something on that order. So you're not talking about a critical situation.
In a statement, Alaska Airlines says the go-around was done as a safety precaution because of congestion and added at no point was the safety of the flight compromised. We commend our pilots for their quick thinking.
I think that's watered down quite a bit. Somebody has to get to the bottom of this.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
Before the next incident isn't just a close call.
In San Francisco, Gia Vang, NBC, Bay Area News.
Wait a minute. No. The former pilot said this wasn't really that close of a call. It looked like they had 3 miles, and their planes traveling really fast, but 3 miles is that's not, I don't know, man.
3 miles is still 3 miles, and it's not. This guy obviously must have soiled his Depends, right, and is looking for some retribution, and feeling really freaked out. But yeah, these things actually do happen quite a bit. The roundabouts and turnarounds or whatever they call them, those happen quite a bit. It's pretty common practice. And yeah, pushing tin, as they say, or whatever the phrase is for air traffic control, it's really hard shit. Like, there's a lot of planes in the air at any given time, and there's especially an airport like SFO where you've got crisscrossing runways and all sorts of traffic backing up. Right, very busy airport takeoffs and landings, and different airlines to coordinate with. It's really complicated shit. So the fact that something like this or close calls don't happen more often is frankly amazing, and it's a testament to the work of these fine pilots and fine air traffic controllers, and this guy's obviously just being a male Karen and getting into a tizzy about it, and contacting the local news about it. And I'm guessing like the other 250 odd people on the flight, were just like, oh, that was fun, or it was exciting.
Maybe a little unsettling because that, if for whatever reason the pilot felt like, well, I got to actually do this right now. We got to, for who knows what the reasoning was, right? If he's like, no, this actually I have to do this right now, well then yeah, I guess it might be a little unsettling to some of the people on board. That pilot is a trained professional who knows what that plane can and cannot do.
Right. And homeboy is sitting in his living room, nice and comfortable, in Menlo Park or wherever, Atherton, wherever he lives. He's fine. No worse for wear, not even a bump or a bruise or a, twisted muscle to be found or a stubbed toe. He's just fine. Just like, we had the shooting, the ghost gun found at our local school here, right? We had it on Downballot a few weeks ago, and parents are all freaked out. Like, what are you going to do about it? Well, guess what? We did something about it. We found the gun. We got the kid. No one got hurt. What's your problem? Like, are we supposed to stop? Put up a wall? But yeah, so that everything worked. All the systems worked, and this guy's just sour grapes. So I thought it was hilarious watching this. I'm like, how did this make the news? This is newsworthy. Okay.
And like you were saying, shout out to all these people, the pilots, the air traffic control workers. You would think that a professional job like an airline pilot would pay really well, but you would think wrong.
You would absolutely think wrong. It's just like teaching. It's pittance what we pay these folks.
Right.
And they're forced to work really awful hours and crazy hours, right? And crazy literally travel schedules, right? Like you're away from home for weeks on end, back and forth, crisscrossing the world. Sometimes
and there are times where if there's not enough time between your flights, but you want to go to sleep, that you pay for a hotel out of pocket. Right. The airline doesn't reimburse you because it's like, I don't remember what the number of hours was, but it was, when I heard it, I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I'm sure it's contractual, right? They're unionized, so I'm sure it's contractual in terms of how many hours you have to work or be on a layover in order for us to pay for, X number of hours for you to sleep somewhere and not get into a cockpit in front of 300 people in a tin can flying through the air at 600 miles an hour. A little bit sleepy.
It was kind of surprising to me to find out that airports don't have sleeping quarters for the pilots. Why wouldn't
you, right?
I'd put just a bunch of 10 by 10 rooms with a nice bed, turn down service like at a hotel and a TV on the wall. And if you're a pilot, you can go take a nap in that room whenever you want. I just can't imagine. I don't understand. It doesn't even seem like it's not that much space. It can be built into the airport when they're not being used by the pilots. When people have when people's flights get canceled or weird shit happens, you could be like, hey, we have a room actually here for you in the airport that we're gonna be able to comp you. It's not fancy, no room service, but you can take a nap, watch some TV, hang out. But no, they don't do that, and so it's rough on pilots. And then luckily enough, this guy didn't probably go bother the pilot, right?
I would hope not, especially on the way off the plane. Maybe everyone's just like, thank you for getting us home safely, right? And this guy comes up like, I've got some words for you, sir. I don't know anything about your job, but I'm going to tell you how to do your job.
Right. I mean, if something like that happened and I ran into the pilot on the way off, I'd be like, that was wild. What happened? I'd want to know, you know what I mean? Seriously. I might want to know more about what happened, not less.
For sure. Interestingly enough, the Good Wife's at the Good Wife's office, they have a lactation room that doubles as the rest room, right? Literally restroom, like nap room. So people will schedule, staff will schedule nap time in there. And sometimes they'll oversleep or they'll get in there too early or they'll be in there too late. And the Good Wife's got a pump, she got things to do, right? And she got to lactate. So you have to quote unquote knock them out, right? Wake them up, get them to come out just so you can do your business. And it's the most awkward thing. So, but at least they have a space. So maybe some shared space. I'm saying they could figure out some sort of shared lounge space at the airport for the pilots, and maybe the lactating moms.
All right. Well, we're gonna get our shit together here. Well, maybe not. This story is about two of our favorite things in San Francisco: the Millennium Tower and shit.
Hit play.
Well, they saw this coming. Millennium Tower's own engineers suggested that sewage backups could be a byproduct of that high-rise tilting so much.
Now it's the ugly reality. Backed up sewage into the condos of the troubled high-rise. One resident recently found the kitchen sink overflowing with brown muck. Investigative reporter Jackson Vanderbecken has the exclusive story.
Mehrdad Mustafavi said he once considered his third-floor Millennium Tower condo his happy place, but not anymore.
1 time, 2 times, 4 times this area.
He says as the tower continued to sink and tilt, he started getting flooding problems from drain pipes.
If you see
in his ceiling, around his washing machine, and his toilet, even bubbling up from the kitchen sink.
From this pipe.
But nothing like what he faced when he recently came home on a Sunday night. The next day, he invited us to see for ourselves.
When I came last night here, water was up to here.
It was everywhere, even in his office nearby.
To change some of the cabinet, and if I change the cabinet, I have refurbished the whole hardwood floor. I don't know, my oven, the wall here.
He's not the only one. One of Mustafavi's third-floor neighbors says she's had drain problems too, but doesn't want us to show her face. She says it began shortly after she moved into her rental apartment in 2021. Her toilet kept getting clogged. She says Millennium officials blamed it on disinfecting wipes that she says were flushable. But she says her problems continued well after she stopped using them.
So water was bubbling up all around where the toilets connected to the ground.
She shared both pictures and video with us showing past flooding around her washing machine, her entry room floor, and says she has logs proving that Millennium crews come to her apartment twice a month to snake out her kitchen sink.
And they said that they do this to prevent clogging. And then even though they're still doing this, I'm still having things foaming up from the kitchen sink regularly.
Millennium Tower officials didn't answer our questions about Mustafavi's flooding issues, but sent us a statement saying all the water problems in the building are limited to just 2 third-floor units. They blame wipes and other non-flushable items for clogging up the system, not the tilting. They cited this engineer's report dated January of last year, recounting that tower staff was running into issues regarding educating tenants on their habits regarding sanitary wipes and other non-flushable products that are causing backups in these lines. Keep in mind, just 5 months earlier, Millennium's own fix engineer, Ron Hamburger, warned backups had already started in a second-floor kitchen and could occur in units with drainage pipes that flow against the direction of the tilt. Millennium Tower officials say that Hamburger merely stated that it was possible for such backups to happen, adding that drainage slopes have always remained within code standards, even though monitoring data shows the tower's tilt has gone from 19 inches at the time of Hamburger's report to 29 inches now.
We cannot expect this to be a one-off. It is a systemic issue that requires attention.
Mark Savell is an architect and contractor who analyzes building failures. He says while wipes flush down toilets can obviously be a problem, tilting is the most likely cause of the backups being reported now. The only way to deal with it permanently, he says, is to adjust drain pipes to make them still slope properly downward despite the tilt. And he says the time to do that may be now.
This is undoubtedly a health concern. It's a potential for property damage, and it's going to continue, if not worsen, over time.
Well, I was so happy, beautiful apartment. I was so happy coming here, move here.
Mustafavi says he now feels trapped in his once beloved condo, unable to sell.
With so many problems happening here, now is more than bothersome. It's not manageable anymore, money-wise and time-wise. I don't know what to do.
So this is your unhappy place?
No, yeah, I have to put it on UN here.
At least he's kind of funny.
Jackson Vanderbecken, NBC, Bay Area News.
That's incredibly fucked up. How much do you think that condo cost him? Oh my God.
Right. Well, those are the real victims we've been talking about for a long time, right? I mean, victims, yes, but I mean, they're buying pretty expensive condos, so okay, fine. Maybe a small violin is playing for them. But yeah, it's got to be awful. And you know that they can't probably get any recourse even with a lawsuit until there's some sort of absolute end to it, right? Like there's the owners finally admit we can't straighten the building out, right? We're not going to be able to fix this. Then they can sue, right? But I think they should sue anyway.
Oh, that dude's probably already suing.
I hope so. God, it's just awful. It's almost like, okay, let's just run the story and let it speak for itself. But Jesus Christ, get your shit together.
Or at least get it flowing the right direction.
There you go. Get your shit flowing. Well, speaking of flowing, shall we head down ballot and check out a few stories from the local political and policy scene here?
Yeah, what's this first one?
Very interesting. So San Jose recently is in the process of passing a new sort of housing plan that the state requires all cities to pass every 8 years to sort of guide housing growth to account for need, right? Well, San Jose is still in the process of getting their plan passed. And in the interim, because their previous plan has expired, there's this sort of weird space where developers can come in and sort of get around local zoning codes and other policies, housing policies, because there's really no policy in place right now. So we're going to learn about a story about some condos coming to Willow Glen that are trying to get around and use this loophole.
A new housing fight is brewing in the South Bay, and it's a big test for a strategy that could fast-track projects that might otherwise get rejected. The latest battleground is a longtime swim and tennis club in San Jose's Willow Glen neighborhood. A developer wants to tear down the club on Pedro Street to build condos, including low-income housing. And here is where it gets interesting. The developer is trying to use something called the builder's remedy. Now, we've been hearing about this ever since the state started requiring cities and counties to submit their housing plans. And as Katie Nielsen shows us, it could be a way to push this project through without approval from the city.
This is the San Jose Swim and Racket Club. It first opened in 1956, almost 70 years ago. Now,
it's to swim there.
More than 3 acres of prime real estate where a developer wants to build 85 luxury condos, but neighbors are saying not so fast.
It has tennis and an Olympic-sized pool.
Dave Zalatimo has been a member at SJSRC for more than 20 years. It's where his kids learn to swim and where he comes to swim laps.
And when you have a unique facility like this that is the center of a community, when this land is converted to private residential, that community is lost.
Dave is leading an opposition group trying to save the swim club, or at least prevent developers from turning it into condos. According to a proposal sent to the city, the developer wants to build a 4-story, 85-unit condo building with 20% of the units marked for low-income housing. But the city planning department refused to change the zoning to allow the condo project to move forward, so the developer notified the city they'd be using something called builder's remedy.
Cities are suddenly worried about this in a way that they weren't in the past.
Professor Elmendorf teaches law classes in land use at UC Davis and is an expert in builder's remedy. He says it's a state statute that was rarely used until about 6 months ago. It allows developers to sidestep city zoning regulations to fast-track affordable housing projects in cities that don't have an affordable housing plan approved by the state.
The builder's remedy only applies in cities that haven't adopted an adequate housing plan to accommodate their share of regionally needed housing.
With builder's remedy, builders can come in with development on pretty much any property, and we don't have a lot of leeway to say no.
San Jose City Council member Dev Davis represents the Willow Glen neighborhood and the area of the proposed development. She says she's not opposed to the additional housing, but doesn't like the idea of losing recreational space to housing. But there isn't much the city can do to push back because it's a California regulation.
The state and our state representatives have basically sided with developers and said developers get carte blanche and the average resident gets no say.
The attorney for the development told me this afternoon that there is no lawful way for the city to block this development project and that the 85 housing units are a necessary step toward easing the area's housing crisis.
Katie tells us just last night, San Jose City Council approved a revised version of its housing plan. So the state needs to sign off. But if it's approved, that would stop any more developers from using the builder's remedy. As far as the plan just approved, it outlines how San Jose aims to meet its goals of adding as many as 75,000 new homes over the next decade. So that could boost its housing stock by 25%. The city has identified about 600 potential sites for developments, many in the Darden Station area and future site of Google's mega campus.
Googleplex.
I feel like there's actually a solution here. It's to.
And
what if you put a swim club in the housing development so that the bottom floor of the housing development was the swim club, and then the people lived above the swim club?
But then you'd have to let the public into your private housing establishment to use the club, and and then they'd bring their icky kids and their towels and stuff and their juice packs, and they'd be in your yard. No, that's a great idea, actually. I mean, coming together, right? Like the development around the flea market. Why in the world can't you figure out a way to to build a brand new, better flea market in your development, right? So yeah, I'd love to see that. Good to hear that these developers are interested in having affordable units on site. They could just pay a fee to the city to get that done into an affordable housing fund, but they actually want to have the units there, so that's nice. But other than that, yeah, I don't know how much value this is bringing with 85 units. It's not necessarily every unit counts. It does, especially for the person living on the street, the family living on the street. But it's not. They can't, necessarily play the trumpets and say we're the frickin' saviors of all humankind, right? So I think that, again, this is more like a winners and losers situation because no one's really winning yet.
So we're going to stay in San Jose for, I think, all of our stories in Downballot Watch. These are San Jose leaders and business owners hope to get rid of downtown blight.
Right. Well, as we talked about earlier, there's a mass exodus of folks, not from San Jose necessarily, but people who are just not coming downtown in San Jose because of a perception that it's just not a friendly place. We both know that it's almost too friendly, and
Yes.
that's probably the problem. But now, for a long time, and I'll lead into this story really quickly because I know we have to go soon, but for a long time, there's been this sort of pushback on the broken windows philosophy of policing, right? Like if you have tenants in commercial spaces, if you have eyes on the street, quote unquote, like people living and working around an area, you'll see less broken windows, and you'll see more, less crime on the whole, and things will just improve generally speaking, right? Because you've done that. So we've shied away from that because it's somewhat racist, and is really grounded in really racist theology or philosophies around public safety policy. Well, we're seeing a resurgence of it, and it's the very black and brown people who we're supposed to be looking out for who are joining in with Mayor Ed 209 to join the chorus of blight and what we need to do to improve the perspective and the perception of downtown. So here you go.
Good evening, I'm Elizabeth Cook.
And I'm Ryan Yamamoto. It's an issue plaguing many Bay Area cities trying to boost their downtowns after the pandemic. Now San Jose is taking action.
Devin Feely has more on how the city is stepping up enforcement to fight blight and what it means for the businesses who live with it every day.
When there are empty storefronts, when a neighborhood has become something of an eyesore with trash and graffiti, it can become very difficult for business owners to convince customers to come to their store. The city is trying to break that cycle and has launched an aggressive crackdown on property owners that haven't kept their buildings up.
A lot of people, they don't want to come down here because of the way it looks.
Chris Patterson Simmons is the owner of New to You Thrift Boutique, a business a few blocks away from San Jose City Hall.
The graffiti is just really crazy.
She's been in business for 11 years, but starts virtually every day the same way, spray painting over the graffiti that sprung up outside her store like a stubborn weed.
If I'm not there, it would be bad. It would be really bad, because I already know the need. That's why I've been blessed to be here so long.
San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan wants to help business owners like Chris.
This is really about accountability.
The mayor was joined by members of the city council and business community to announce a plan to crack down on empty and neglected storefronts and buildings throughout the city.
It's not fair to any of the business owners along here who are acting in good faith, trying to make a living, to have to deal with blighted properties next to them that's scaring away customers.
The mayor says the city has aggressively staffed up its building and code enforcement department. There's currently 41 inspectors citywide with plans to hire 5 more. He says that should help with a backlog of complaints And he says that property owners with rundown or out-of-compliance buildings should be prepared to face fines.
We are staffing up this department, bringing down the vacancy rate, and putting ourselves in a position to be proactive.
Chris says she welcomes the help after years of shouldering the burden, largely by herself.
There's been a number of times me and fellow business owners will go out there and clean stuff up.
According to the city, the fines eventually top out at $1,000 a day for property owners who have ignored repeated requests and efforts to get them to clean up their buildings.
I don't know. So, I mean, if they're going after like the property owners who aren't leasing the space and are letting it go into disrepair or decline, I'm for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a push to do this for a long time. It's just that now it's getting some traction because Mayor Ed 209 is one of his biggest issues is blight and cleanliness, which is next to godliness, by the way. So he's using that and leverage. And frankly, council members are, leveraging that and trying to get some of that love and that largesse in their own districts, right? Because they all hopefully they can all benefit from his interest in doing that. Businesses everywhere can benefit, but we'll see. It's a pilot program for now, and we'll see if it has any what kind of effect it has. Well, I know we're coming up on it. We have a couple more stories, but we could just turn one of them into another thing. We good? All right. Well, let's talk about Burger King because we want to have these workers want to have it their way. I've been waiting to say that all day. I totally fucked it up, but we're rushed.
And employees
I gotta laugh.
at a San Jose Burger King held a strike and rally after they say a coworker was not allowed to leave her shift despite suffering severe pain. Cooks and cashiers demonstrated outside the Burger King on Story Road at South White Road tonight. Laura Reyes says she was on the job in early April when she started having pain and she started bleeding. She says she asked her manager if she could leave early. Reyes says the manager told her she could not leave until others had gotten their breaks.
Donde estaba una compañera Aide que
I told her that I was bleeding very bad and I wasn't sure if I was pregnant. But inside of me, I felt that it was something very wrong. We worked more than a hamburger and I could have died that day. So I don't want that anyone goes through the same thing.
Reyes later had a miscarriage and she learned she'd had a potentially dangerous ectopic pregnancy. Reyes has filed a complaint with Cal OSHA. We have reached out to Burger King for a response.
We have an update.
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
Burger King's response is going to be like their lawyers, basically. Yeah, that's not good.
Not great. Also,
not great.
As like a person who eats at places, I don't, if you're, it doesn't really matter what the cause of, like, if somebody's bleeding somewhat profusely at an establishment that's serving food, they should, first of all, they should seek medical attention, but they should also not be working at that. What the fuck?
Not be by the charbroiler, maybe.
Yeah,
that would probably be a good idea. Yeah, no, absolutely. First and foremost, the health and safety of the worker, and their obviously everything that was going on there, and then health and safety of your customers. Like all these things should come sort of first and foremost, especially if you're in the food business. I don't know if Burger King I guess it's franchised, so I'm sure this is a franchise operator. Maybe it maybe there's some corporate policy that they were breaking too. So maybe this can also be appealed that way as well. So we shall see. But good Lord, dude, like have a little more respect for just a tiny bit of respect for your employees. You're not paying them a whole lot in the first place.
A Whopper's a damn good fast food burger, but now I'm thinking twice about what's going on behind the scenes at my local Burger King.
Dude, the commercials make me want to go. Those chicken sandwiches. I used to love that Italian chicken sandwich. I got that every time that came out. But no more. That was Down Ballot Watch. So we'll keep an eye on that strike. That's actually a bigger push nationwide and locally around fast food worker unionization and minimum wage hikes, things of that nature, the $15 minimum wage. So more to come in that arena. But I really feel for that employee and hope she gets everything that's coming to her
paid.
There you go, paid. All right, well, shall we do one more thing?
Yeah, we got one more thing. What is this?
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen a kangaroo rat, but I hadn't until I watched this video. So I was today's old when I learned what a kangaroo rat is, and we're going to find out all of our listeners and viewer are going to find out as well.
Well, scientists will soon scour a remote part of Santa Clara County, trying to find more of a creature that's on the verge of being extinct. Scientists tell the Bay Area News Group they spotted a small population of the Santa Cruz kangaroo rat in the preserve above Los Gatos. Now, they're mostly active at night. They're more physically related to chipmunks than a rat. It's believed that only a few of them were left in the world, and they lived in Cowell State Park in Santa Cruz County.
Oh, and then they have little cute voices.
Do they have little cute voices? I don't know.
Christmas, Christmas, Christmas.
They're like the fucking chip, like Alvin and the Chipmunk.
I tried to shy away from the melody itself so we don't get shut down again, but you know what I'm saying. That is super cute. Oh my God, I didn't realize they were more like chipmunks than rats. I want one.
Yeah, well, they're rare. You would have to pay a pretty penny, I think, to get one.
But I want it now, Daddy. I want a parade. I want a party with roomfuls of laughter. All right. Well, I guess we've reached the end of another wonderful episode of Down Ballot. Would you like me to read it out? Shall you read it out this week? What shall we do?
I've already got you full screened.
Oh, dude, I'm on. Listener, pay very close attention to the man on the screen. No. Thanks very much for joining us once again for another live episode of Down Ballot and for downloading the podcast later on the podcatcher of your choice. We really appreciate you tuning in. Please share with a friend. Once again, we are the 11th best news podcast in California, and we are coming for you, California Report. This has been the Councilman, as always, with producer Dave. Please get vaxxed, wear a mask if possible, and pants are optional. This is Audible Smoke, and stay tuned for Conspiracy Bingo. Peace.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. I get the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band, yeah. Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he liked jamming and he hoped we liked jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, what we wanna do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit